Thank you so much, Karen, also known as KE, to be on Magic of Cozy's podcast with us this afternoon. Can you tell us about your journey into writing Magical Cozy Mysteries?
Yes, yeah, I can. And thank you for inviting me on today. I really enjoy talking about books. It's one of my two passions, well, maybe three if you include chocolate. So I absolutely love talking all things books, visiting libraries, going to bookstores, looking at books, picking up books, reading them in all formats. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you for inviting me over. So yes, my journey. Next year is my 10th year anniversary of being a full-time author. So I've been doing
Oh,
this for
congratulations.
quite a long time. Yeah, it's a long time I've been doing it. And I'm thinking, what can I do to sort of celebrate having a whole decade as an author? What can I do for the readers and all sorts of things that are going on in my head. But my background, so I've always loved books, loved reading. I didn't have a brilliant childhood. I was quite badly bullied as a kid, and I found books a huge solace. So if I was having a rough day, I just escaped to my room and I would lose myself in a story. And that was kind of an escape route for me. And part of the reason I write now is because I like to create these little bundles of escape for people. So they might be having a bad day, or their boss was rude to them, someone was nasty on the journey home, or anything. And I just want to create these little magical adventures that people can go, you know what, I'm going to go and spend half an hour with the Crypt Witches and Wiggles, and I'm just going to forget all about the nonsense. So it's sort of repeating a pattern that I found books an amazing solace when I was a kid, and I hope that the books that I write now do the same for the people who read them. I actually got started writing short stories, so I used to enter competitions, and I don't know if you have this over in America, but we have magazines that are sort of fiction focused, or they'll have a fiction slot. So I would write the stories to fill those slots. And that's how I sort of got started and thinking, oh, I could make a little bit of money from my stories. So yes, that's the very beginning. And I didn't actually start in Cozy Mysteries. You can't find them now, but I wrote two series, which were young adult paranormal romances, the School of Exorcists and Ghost Academy. So that's how I got started. And then I diverted off, as you're not supposed to. You're supposed to stay in your lane as an author and write in the same genre. Didn't do that. And so I did young adult paranormal romance, a little stint in urban fantasy. Then I did sci-fi romance under a pen name, when you can still get those. And at the same time as doing the sci-fi, I started writing a cozy mystery series set in Cornwall in the UK, featuring zombies. So probably not the cleverest of moves, because zombies and cozy readers, they don't really gel. It's not a great mix. But that was a series of my heart. I always, for some weird reason, wanted a cozy mystery series featuring friendly zombies. Now, these aren't your Walking Dead style zombies. And I think there's 6 books in that series, and they opened my eyes to cozies and mystery and magic. And ever since then, I really kind of focused on that specific genre, having magic in the mysteries, and just developing all these different series. And so, yes, as I said, almost 10 years I've been doing it full time. I probably do something every single day on my books, whether it's writing or doing some self-editing, or thinking about new series, or plotting, or book cover design, talking to my designers. I absolutely love it. It's the best career, and I don't think I would change a single thing about it. So yes, that's my origin story.
That is great. And I don't know, Cozy Zombie sounds like right up my alley. I think that'd be fun to make a zombie cozy. um, I don't know. We might have to look at that idea again.
Yeah,
How
they're
would
there
you?
for you. Do have a read.
Yeah. So how do you approach world building in your magical cozy mystery series and make it believable?
I think one of the things I do with any series, apart from one series which turned out to have no magic in it at all, um, is I do spend a lot of time just thinking about the worlds and the characters and what will be in them. And so I'm currently working on a series, and by that I mean I'm just often sitting and thinking about this series. So who's in the world, what kind of magic happens in the world, how powerful will the magic users be, and the Crypt Witch series, for example, you've got the Crypt Witches themselves, but then you also have vampires, you have werewolves, you have all kinds of magical creatures, including talking magical animals and familiars, which I must admit is my favourite part of any story, is having the magical animals. My Magical Misfits Mysteries, which is a spin-off series from Crypt Witches, the main sleuth is a talking cat, because I just got so into this idea of having these powerful magical creatures that I just thought, right, I'm going to have my sleuth. My next sleuth will be the cat, and her sidekick is a witch. So it's a sort of flipping the kind of usual tropes in this genre. So yes, lots of thinking, and one of the important things with magic is you don't want it to solve everything, because if you can throw out a spell and ta-da, the criminal is revealed, then there's no story, there's no challenge, and there's no adventure for your sleuth and in turn your readers to go on. So in that sense, it's sort of, there is magic in the world, but it's flawed, it's not perfect, you cannot do everything with magic. You do this, you cook your own breakfast, you make your own bed. If you want to find a criminal, you have to hunt for the clues and do the interviews. So it's sort of incorporating it into an everyday world. So it's almost like an enhancement of our world, essentially. But it's sort of, you're adding the sort of the sprinkles on top to make it extra special and a bit mysterious.
I do love that. I had, I think last week, a conversation with another author, and we were talking about worlds and like the difference between the the completely made up worlds that authors will create and a magical world within the world as we know it. And I think both have their place and are just as interesting, right? It's always interesting when you have like sort of this magical realm
Yeah.
within the real world that us humans don't know
Yes.
exists, which that to me just sounds fantastic. And then there's also
Yes.
the great magical made up world that is created as well. I think I love it. I love it all. What
Yes, the
advice would you give? Yeah.
fantasy authors, where they build like this huge, enormous world, and they have maps and hundreds of things on it, and it's so. I mean, I very much admire them, but I do like just kind of having this possibility of this very thin veil in our world, and that if we just knew how to kind of tweak it to one side, there's all the magic, there's the mystery, there's the talking cats. That to me, it just kind of gets like a tingle down my spine, where I just think it's a bit like the book The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, if you've ever read that. It's my favorite book
Yes.
as a kid. I was always going in the back of wardrobes and looking for that door to Narnia, because I was so convinced it was real. And I think today, as I'm writing, I am so sure that there's a way through to these magical worlds, and we just haven't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah, I love that idea, and that does also make me very excited to maybe one day stumble into a magical world. I know I live in
Yes.
Arizona right now, but I
Okay.
grew up on the East Coast with more like older buildings, more colonial style buildings, and I used to
Yeah.
always love if I was at a friend's house or a family member's house who had an older home to find some sort of mystery wall that moves or a bookcase or something because some of these older homes have these sort of secret compartments, and I used to love, even though
Yeah.
they weren't always safe for children, but like they were fun to kind of explore. Um, because it gives you that sense, that Narnia sense that there's something beyond the wall, beyond the wardrobe.
Yeah.
So that is great. What advice would you give to an aspiring author who's interested in writing in magical cozy mysteries?
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. And when I started out sort of seriously getting into thinking about novel writing, there's it was a bit of a wild west out there. And I think to a degree it still is, in that you can spend a lot of money taking courses and experts telling you how to do these things. But there's so much good advice out there that it's free, or you've got people who have been working in the business for a long time and they just want to share because they don't want you to be conned or to be told you must do it this way, because there are lots of different ways to write a mystery and to have the magical elements. One big thing for me with any type of writing is mindset, and I think that's a really important one. And I was having a look at some of the blogs and things online, and I think all of them say writing a novel is really hard. And if you go into writing a novel with that in your front of your mind, then it is going to be hard and it will feel like a struggle. And I like to think to myself, I get to do this every day. I get to make up these worlds. I get to provide these stories to people for them to escape into and enjoy it. And I get to have a career that lots of people think about, but they never do it because they're always told it's too hard. And when I was younger and sort of talking to my parents about wanting to be an author, they just said there's no money in it. Just get a sensible job and just, work hard for 40 years. Then you can retire and have fun. And I was sort of, I hate that idea. I mean, I couldn't stand that idea. I sort of took a bit of a sensible path. So I did go to university, but I studied ridiculous things. So I studied archaeology. I did a master's degree in cognitive evolution, studying primate brains and looking at play behavior and all kinds of weird things. And then I did different jobs, but I kept changing jobs every few years because I was hiding from my passion, and I was hiding because everyone had told me that you could never make any money as a writer. Writing was incredibly hard. So I think the biggest piece of advice is look at your mindset and your beliefs about what it is to be a writer. Do you think it's hard graft? Do you think everything you write will be rejected or laughed at? And I think work on that and actually sort of think, what if this could be fun? And what if this is an adventure? And what if this is me following something I'm so passionate about and that I want to do all the time? That's probably the biggest step and kind of hurdle many people need to get over. In terms of practical things when you're writing magical mysteries, read them a lot. I mean, I think any writer loves reading, and but if you're not a big reader, there are loads of fabulous TV series that have great templates that you can follow for your books. One I would suggest is Midsummer Murders. I don't know if you have that over in America.
Can you repeat the name of that one again?
Midsummer Murders.
Yes, I actually watched it. I want to say it was either on Netflix. It's on one of the
Okay.
streaming networks, and it must have been either Netflix or Peacock because those are the two that I have.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I really like that series.
Yeah. It's a really it's a really long running series. I think it's like 15 series or something, and it just keeps on going. They have the format down perfectly. So they often have the crime right at the beginning, and then they have the detectives going and finding the suspect. They do all the interviewing. Then there's these little twists and turns, and they find out people have been lying, and off they go again. It's perfect. It's a really, so if you don't have time to read a lot, but you do like TV, I suggest binging some of those series. But there are also loads of free templates online if you think you need a guide to sort of get your mystery in the right order. I mean, I was thinking about it before we started this. In all of my books, I've probably written over 100 books in my 10-year career. So I now kind of have this template in my head. But when you're starting out, it's really good to have a guide, just to say, oh, have I hit this point? Have I remembered this suspect? Have I put in this clue? And when you get, there's a more of a regular rhythm, then it sort of becomes natural. It certainly did to me after writing so many books. One thing I would also say, and this will have a lot of people groaning, is planning will make this process so much easier. There'll be lots of people going, no, I love just thinking it up on the spot, and don't make me plan, and it sucks the joy out of it. But it breaks my heart when I hear writers saying, oh, I've written 150,000 words and I've just deleted 75,000 of those because the plot went off over here when it should have gone over here. I'm just like, oh, please have a plan. It just makes me want to cry. So you don't have to have a massive plan. I meant to bring one with me, but I forgot. I just use little index cards, and I literally put a few lines for each chapter for what I want to happen. So it might be one chapter is going and seeing the suspect, getting their motive, their alibi, their opportunity, making them tell a sneaky lie so that they stay in the frame as a suspect. And it can just be, half a dozen lines and off you go. But yeah, do learn to love a plan, even if it's the briefest of plans scribbled on a piece of paper. It does make things easier. And one last thing I would suggest for any writer really is, if you want to write a lot, learn to love the sound of your own voice. Because a few years back, my lovely hands decided they no longer wanted to work very well. And I get really bad repetitive strain injury all the way down to my elbows, these horrible pains. And it was a choice really of stop writing, stop typing, or learn a different method to get your words out. So I now actually dictate all of my first drafts and use different bits of software to do that. It takes practice. You'll feel super weird talking to yourself in an empty room, or I have to go walking in a completely empty field because I never want anyone to hear me talking to myself about how to kill someone and get away with it. And when I used to do sci-fi romance, trying to dictate the steamy scenes was just it was not happening, because it was like sitting in a room talking dirty to yourself, and it was just like, oh no, I can't do that. But if you want to get your books out really quickly, just have a practice. There's free software. If you have a PC, you can use the free software on Microsoft Word to have a go and have a try. It's a pain-free way to get your words down, and you save your poor hands and wrists from lots of discomfort. So yes, that's a few bits of advice. I could go on, but we'll stop there.
No, those are great pieces of advice. I personally talk to myself all the time, where my husband sometimes is like, what are you saying? And I'm like, I'm not talking to you. And he's like, who are you talking to? Myself, leave me alone. But I could see how maybe dictating a steamy scene may be a little awkward.
Yes, that was super awkward. And sometimes if I'm not currently dictating a book, I'm doing lots of outlining and editing. But if I've been dictating all day, I will, and I'm talking to someone, I'll sometimes start adding the punctuation in by mistake. So I'll do comma, full stop, new line, and people will go, what was that? And I'll go, no, sorry, it's not for you. That can be a bit embarrassing.
So switching gears a little bit, what is your definition of magic?
Yeah, I mean, in this world, I think humans are naturally a really curious species. So we love to figure out the puzzles, how things work, what's in space, what's at the bottom of the ocean. We're always nosing about and wanting to find a definitive answer. And I think this is, for me, one of the delightful things about magic, is that you can't really explain it. It just, for so many people, it just adds something special to their lives. And I was thinking about Harry Potter and how it just enchanted so many children and adults, and I came to Harry Potter late, and until it didn't start reading the series until it was all out. But there's something about the normal world and then this kind of magical thing going on, just hidden away, that is so exciting, and it's the potential and the possibilities. I think also thinking about magic, and how it's interconnected in the world, is that it's my witches in my series, so Crypt Witches, they have a powerful ancient stone circle in the books, and they can draw magic from the stone circle. So if they've been using a lot of spells, they can go to the stones and recharge, and it's kind of this old ancient artifact that's full of mystery and history, and has seen a lot. And in one of the Crypt Witch books, the stone circle witnesses a murder, and it's really unhappy about it, and it's sort of almost going to explode because it wants this mystery solved, and there's all this power building up inside it, and it sort of shows the power of all this kind of hidden magic and intrigue, and wanting to know answers. And as well, in Magical Misfits Mysteries, in the town of Crimson Cove, there's these ancient ley lines that run beneath the town, and again the witches, they can draw their power from it, but people also come into the town to try to steal that magic. And it's sort of, I think of magic as very much part of nature. So it's interwoven in old stones and in ancient trees. You know, they've got these 500-year-old oak trees, and they, you know, what have they witnessed? All the amazing history that they've soaked up and absorbed. I just think that magic is a part of nature, because nature itself is just awesome when you see some of the creatures and the environments that are created. So yes, for me, magic is a bit of mystery, but also intertwined in our very natural world. That's magical to me.
Oh, that's such a great answer. If you could have a magical power or ability, what would it be and why?
Oh, this was a super easy one for me. Longevity for my pets, because I have had a number of pets in my life, and I've outlived them all, and my heart's never fully healed. I've had a couple of very special cats, and they were my best buddies. They were with me every day for over a decade. One of them, she lived for 16 years, and I think about her every day. Her name's Cassie, and I just think I want her to be beside me now, and I want us to live as long as each other, and then we both die at exactly the same time, and then we go off on another adventure scattered across the universe. So yeah, longevity for my pets, please.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I have dogs, and in the past
Okay.
2 years, we've lost two dogs. One was of
Oh.
age, and one was of illness. So,
Mm.
I'm there with you. They need to live longer.
Yes, they
But
do.
I still have two more, so my house is still very full
Okay.
of animals. Um,
Lovely.
yeah. What is your favorite way to get cozy with a book?
I tend to read. I two times I enjoy reading. So when I finish on the computer, I'll just go and curl up on the sofa, usually with a paperback. I prefer to, when I'm sort of sitting around, I prefer paperback. So I'll just curl up in the corner. I'm currently in a friend's house looking after her dog, so I have a new cozy corner, which he's right behind me on the sofa. He's currently sitting in it, so I can't sit there at the moment. And he's an enormous greyhound, so he's totally taken over my cozy reading corner. But yeah, I'll just sit in the corner, curled up, not under a blanket at the moment because it's actually 30 degrees in the UK, which is absolutely insane for us. But normally I have a blanket over my knees and just a cup of tea by my side, and yeah, while away an hour after I've finished my books. And then second time is in bed. I always go to bed by about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I usually read on my Kindle for about an hour. And it's a mixture of, I usually do fiction, but I always have at least one non-fiction on the go as well. So I'll pick and choose between those, whichever has held my interest the most.
That's great. I love a good like hot beverage, and it is over 100 degrees here in Arizona, so there are also no blankets unless the air conditioning is super low, and then maybe there's a blanket or a sweatshirt or something. But it is far too hot here right now.
No, I am
So
envious of your
what are
air
you reading?
conditioning.
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. It is really nice
We
to
don't have
have,
that
I
here.
must say. I know. But sometimes I do have to go outside. When I'm home all day, sometimes I have to go outside and just warm up my bones because it can get so frigid and you get so used to it you don't even realize. And you don't really dress for it.
Yeah.
You dress more for the warmer weather outside, and then so it can really be like physically exhausting sometimes to have such a difference in air. Um,
Yep.
but it is nice because it's very humid right now, which is not common
Mm.
for the desert. So it is nice to have the AC because without it, it would be sticky and hot, and that's not fun.
Hmm.
So you mentioned you like the fiction, and then sometimes you have nonfiction by your bedside. So what are you reading right now, and do you have any book recommendations for our listeners? Cozy or not cozy?
I have hundreds, so we could be here a while. No. I mean, I think like everyone who loves their books, I'm sure you're the same. We have a to be read pile that's like,
Oh yeah.
up here. But I did bring a couple along to share. I've got a couple on my Kindle, which I recommend. One I've just finished, which is by mystery author Steve Higgs. He has just brought out a new series, which is Albert Smith's Thrillers, and the first one's called Old Habits. Steve Higgs is a British-based mystery author as well, and very prolific. He's always got new books out. And this series is the sleuth is a 80-year-old, I think he's around 80, Albert Smith, and his failed police dog Rex, and they travel Europe and they find themselves in all kinds of pickles, solving crimes. And it was a great read. It was funny, so you sometimes get the dog's point of view. So Rex goes off on his adventures, often saving the day or getting himself in trouble. It's really fast paced. It was funny, and I just whizzed through that book. It's a great book. The second book is already out, and I intend to get that on my Kindle next. So that's a recommendation on the Kindle. Another one I've just started, and it is a bit naughty, so there's a few swear words. So if you're not into your swearing, and it's very British as well, it's a very British swearing. It's called The Losers Club by Yvonne Vincent, and it's another cozy mystery set in a fictional Scottish island. It's very funny, a little bit rude, but I'm really enjoying the writing. I'm only about 5 chapters in, but if you want something sort of quintessentially British with that sort of sarky sense of humour that the Brits are sort of known for, that's a great series. And I think it's a long series as well. So if you like a longer series, I recommend that one. And I have
I'm adding
brought
that to my
some
TBR.
physical books. Yes, yeah, add it to your list. Another fiction. This is MC Beaton, the Agatha Raisin series. See that one. So MC Beaton actually died in 2019, but this series, the Agatha Raisin series, was taken over by a fellow author friend. So it's actually R.W. Green who writes the new ones, and this is my first taste of a new style Agatha Raisin book. So again, very British, small English village, cricket clubs, murder, gin and tonics. Fun. It's fun. It's really light-hearted. It whips along. I'm about halfway through. As you can see, my sweet wrapper is my bookmark. But yeah, this is really good. This one's called Down the Hatch. So that's another recommendation. And then I've got two non-fictions, which I thought readers might be interested in. I am a sucker for a self-help book. I've read probably 100, and I'm currently reading this one by Dr. Russ Harris called The Confidence Gap. And it's a little bit like Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, but with lots of really practical steps about how you can just start doing the things you really want to in your life, even though you don't feel confident about doing it. And it's a therapy-based technique called acceptance and commitment training. But yeah, really practical, sensible. Now, I've been on a big sort of manifestation journey, and sadly, my manifestations have kind of the opposite of what I wanted happened, and I was a bit disappointed. So I'm a very logical person, very logically minded, and so this is really my cup of tea because it just gives me these kind of half a dozen steps of what to do to make what you want happen. So if someone's thinking, I've manifested for my £1 million house and my luxury yacht and my toy boy and my gold bars, and they haven't happened, maybe try this. I don't know. Right, I've got one more for you. Now, this is a British author called Beth Kempton. Her book covers are beautiful. You can't really see how lovely this is, but she is a Japanologist. She studies the Japanese culture and lifestyle, and she's lived over in Japan. And she has a very beautiful way of writing, and she uses the Japanese culture and beliefs and way of living and incorporates them in Western lifestyles. I don't know about you, but my life is often crazy hectic. I have massive to-do lists. My mind is always whizzing around. And Beth's writing really helps calm me down. Now, this book is called, I may not pronounce this right, Kokoro, which is Japanese wisdom for a life well lived. And she wrote this, and when she was writing it, she lost her mother and one of her best friends. And it's a sort of story of dealing with grief and how we deal with grief. Now, I've recently lost a family member. It's very recent. It's very sad. We're all still sort of struggling with the loss. And I find this book is so soothing to the soul and so calming. So I think if anyone out there needs a little bit of balm, a little bit of, soul soothing, I recommend any of Beth's work. Beth Kempton, she's an excellent writer. So those are my recommendations. As I said, I could go on, but I'll stop talking
Well,
about
thank
the
you
books.
so much for those recommendations, and I'm sorry about your loss.
No, thank
But
you.
I'm glad you found. You're welcome. I'm glad you found some books to help. That's always great. Books. We always say, books can heal. Books can entertain. They can heal. They can do a lot of things. And
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
wonder when people who don't read regularly, just like, what do they do? How do you get through life without reading?
Yes. It's a mind-boggling question, isn't it? Yeah, I find so much comfort from books and entertainment, and sometimes frustration and useful advice. So, like, I always have something non-fiction because I do love to learn. I think if I hadn't realised I had to go out and earn a living, I'd have probably still been at university on my ninth degree because I just love learning new stuff and seeing different ways of thinking about the world and just absorbing it all. Yeah, I think books are brilliant, and I think everyone should read. And why don't you
Yes.
if you don't read?
Yes, absolutely. So, do you have any new projects you would like to share or promote?
I do lots of new projects. As I mentioned, I'm a prolific writer, so always got something on the go. In fact, tomorrow is release day for one of my historical mysteries. So I have a pen name, which is Kitty Kildare, and Kitty writes 1920s British historical mysteries set in London. And so Death at the Dripping Tap comes out tomorrow, and I'm working on book 15 of my Magical Misfits Mysteries, which is called
Wow.
Every Which Way But Gone. And that's my cat sleuth. She's a beautiful white cat. She's so brilliant to write, and she's so funny. She's got all kinds of secrets that she should share and doesn't. But that book comes out the end of August. If you have any German listeners, also I will be having book 6 in my baking mystery series coming out at the same time, end of August, and that is Mord and Kaffeekuchen, which is murder and roughly murder and coffee cake. So any German readers, Holly Holmes series is being translated. What else have I got? And next is all the Christmas books. I need to get the books done for Christmas releases. So there'll be a Magical Misfits at Christmas story and a 1920s historical Christmas mystery too. So I think that'll keep me busy until the end of the year.
That is great. I will say I have read a couple of the Holly Holmes books in the series
Yeah.
as well, and I think I actually started. I sort of stumbled upon those first. You as an author, and I was like, oh, these are. I mean, they were quintessential cozies. So readers, if you haven't read
Yeah.
that series, you need to, because it is the epitome of what a cozy mystery is. It has all the
Oh,
things.
thank you.
Um, you're welcome. And so, how can listeners find you if they want to connect with you?
So I've got a website which you find all the details about my books on there. So that's www.keoconnor.com. And there, if you look along the top links, you'll see a free book section. So if you are new to my work, I've got some freebies on my website. You just sign up to my newsletter and you can get a free book, and you can see if you like my mysteries. I do a regular newsletter. It goes out every single Thursday. You'll hear from me. Occasional Sundays too, if I have a little book treat or a sale or something exciting going on. I'm also on Facebook, so you can find me there at K.E. O'Connor Author, and the same on Instagram. So yes, that's where you can find me. But yes, just search Google and hopefully I should pop up.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for this great conversation about books and cozies and magic. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I'm so glad we were able to
Oh,
connect.
you're welcome. It was great fun.
Yes.